Hey everyone, thanks for tuning into my channel. Why is all my fly fishing gear sitting behind me? Because we're going to talk today some of the basics that you need if you're going to really get into fly fishing. So let's take a look. So there really is a lot to consider when you're starting to fly fish, just from the rod itself to gear bag, the flies. So we're going to talk a little bit about the basic essentials if you're really going to get out there and start fly fishing. The first thing you're going to need is a fly rod. And I would recommend either a 5 or 6 weight rod if you just have that one rod you're going to start out with. It's heavy enough to shoot some pretty big flies, great for trout, and not too heavy if you're fishing some smaller streams and that type of thing. So this happens to be a 5 weight. Now I have a massive fly on here because I was throwing them at muskies earlier today. Didn't catch any, but I would look at getting a 5 to 6 weight rod. And of course you're going to need a reel. I do prefer a large arbor reel like this. It just makes reeling in the fly line or reeling in the fish a little bit easier than having a smaller arbor reel. So that's just kind of a preference for me to have a large arbor reel. Next, you're going to need a net, right? If you catch a fish, you're going to need something to net it in. So this particular net is from Fisk Net. It's a custom-made net out of Tacoma, Washington. You don't have to go with a fancy net, but you know, it is kind of nice to have also. This is a catch and release net as well, so flies don't get hung up on it. It just treats the fish a lot more gentle when you're going to release it. And don't forget as well, you're gonna need some sort of lanyard device, right? I've lost enough nets down the river to know that I am never not gonna have a lanyard moving forward to where I can clip that onto my gear bag or my waders. So you're gonna need a net and lanyard. You should really consider getting a stripping basket. If you're fishing rivers, it's almost a must. Otherwise, the floating line that you have is going to be all around your feet. You're going to be stepping on it, potentially ruining your line. Having a stripping basket really is kind of an essential if you're going to be doing river fishing. But I like to have it whether I'm river fishing or whether I'm saltwater fishing on the flats. It's nice to have all of your line contained in a stripping basket. Next, you're going to need some waders. I've recently upgraded my waders to these Simms G4. Now these are the better waders that are out there. You don't need to spend $600, $700, $800 on a pair of waders. There are waders from Hodgman or Frog Togs that are just over $100. I do prefer the breathable waders. The neoprene waders just get really hot. I find them constricting. So I would recommend going with a breathable wader. You can always layer up during the winter time and putting sweats on or thermal underwear in case you're getting cold. But you're gonna need a pair of waders. So if you notice, I've gone with waders with stocking foot. I just prefer having separate wading boots than having them attached to the waders itself. I just think it just adds another layer of potential leakage if you have your wading boot attached to your waders. So I go with a wading boot instead. So this is the bag that I have my wading boots in. This actually is pretty cool. My wife got this for me. It has this nice area that you can lay on the ground and stand on. So you're not standing on sharp rocks or dirt and things like that when you're putting on your wading boots when your waders are on. So it's actually a great bag. If you've ever gone fishing and whether you have a truck, an SUV or car, having to put your wading boots when they're all nasty on the bottom inside your car, this is a great way just to contain all the water and stuff that gets on your wading boots. So my wading boots, I have recently went from a Simms wading boot, which I did have for a very long time until the felt soles finally just fell off. These are corkers. Now the nice thing about the corkers is that there are different types of bottoms you can put on these things. So you can see they come right off. And the nice thing about this happens to be a felt bottom. And I do generally wear the felt bottom over any other. But there's a lot of different other bottoms you can get for this, whether it's spikes or just like a hiking boot. And it's really nice to kind of have this diversity in a wading boot. They're super comfortable. They seem very stout. I'm not having any problems with flexibility or feeling unstable when I'm wading a river. But the nice thing is, unlike my Simms, when these wear out, because the felts will wear out eventually, I can just buy another insert and not have to worry about buying an entire new boot. Next, I've shot another video of everything that's in this gear bag, and I'll put a link up there for you to click on so that you can see what some of the minimum things you should have in your fly fishing gear bag. But I like to have a gear bag. I also like to have a secondary gear bag, and this is great. This is Simms. This is a sling pack. and it's so comfortable. When you're fishing rivers, it's really tough to have a fanny pack because it gets in the way. A backpack, in my opinion, starts to pull on your shoulders. Even having a fishing vest is really hard to access. This sling pack is very comfortable, ergonomic, and when I need a fly, I just simply bring it around. It's like I have a workstation right here. Really easy to use. I attach my net on the very top so it's always behind me. And when I'm done, I just sling it back around. And if you're having to travel, this has a great accessory that clips right here and just kind of adds a little, takes a little of the weight off of the pack itself. So it's like wearing a hiking pack that's designed to be on your back for hours. So it's just super comfortable. Ready to get a fly? Whip it around. Great little workstation right here. So I'd highly recommend getting a secondary bag that you put different flies in based off of whatever the fishing is you're doing on that trip. And finally, I have a dry bag. I think it's very important to have a dry bag. Whether you're fishing in a drift boat, a wooden boat, even a float tube, it's nice to have a bag to put all of your gear in just in case, it gets a little bit colder, or you have other gear inside of here that you might need if it starts raining. Like for instance, I have a shell inside this gear bag. I've got another layer inside this gear bag. Nice fleece jacket. I've got a beanie in this gear bag. I've got some toilet paper because you never know when you might need that. Extra pair of sunglasses and a floaty device for my phone because I've dropped this phone in the lake too many times to count. So if I'm out there and I have my cell phone, I got my little floaty attached to it as well. But the great thing about having a dry bag is that you can put all the stuff that you're not using in the dry bag away, wallet as well, cell phone, curl this thing up, and this thing, even if it were to be thrown in the water, it doesn't get wet or fall on the bottom of a wet boat. All of your stuff is protected inside. I can't stress enough how getting a large type of dry bag is super important when fly fishing. So the other thing to consider is if you're going on a lake, how are you gonna get there, right? You're either gonna have a boat. I have this wonderful boat named Eider, which you've seen in some of my videos, or in this picture you can see right now, you can get a float tube. If you do get a float tube, you're also going to need to get fins. So those are two other things that you need to consider if you're going to be fishing lakes, whether it's in a flotation device like a float tube or a boat like the Eider. So finally, you're going to want to have a rod case for your rods. It's really easy to break a rod. It's nice to have a case like this to put your fly rod in. As you can see here, the fly rod is very nicely kept. The reel is on as well, which is nice, so I'm not having to worry about that. All the pieces have their own little home inside, so it just keeps the rod from getting damaged. It's all padded, zips right up, and there you go. Now, most of my rods are 4-piece rods, just because they are far easier to travel with. I do have a few 2-piece rods, but they can get a little bit inconvenient because the tubes for those are over 4 feet long. So a 4-piece is something to consider if you do a lot of traveling or going to the place that you want to fish. But you want to have a nice rod case to be able to keep that rod looking as brand new and unbroken for as long as possible. So if you have all of this, then you're ready to pretty much do any type of fly fishing that's out there. Whether you're walking a river or fishing a lake, fishing a small stream, you are set and ready to go. All right, well, I hope this helps you get outfitted. And again, you don't need to go with some of the top-notch gear I have here. There are gear bags at some of the big retail stores that you can get for $30 to $40. You don't have to spend hundreds of dollars. I just have been doing this a long time, and you do get what you pay for. So the Simms gear have been really good to me. They're quality gear. They're very intuitive for the fly fisher, and that's why I've chosen most of their gear along the way. All right, guys, but the important part is you get out there and you fly fish. So thanks for tuning in, and fish on.